to episode 44 of the While She Naps podcast. I'm Abby Glassenberg. Today we're talking about organic fabrics with my guests, Michelle Engel and Gina Pantastico. Michelle is a co-founder and the creative director of Cloud9 Fabrics, and Gina is a co-founder and the director of operations at Cloud9. Michelle and Gina, welcome.
Hi.
Hi. Hi, guys. I'm so glad you could join me today. So I feel like there was a journey that you each went on separately and then together that led to the creation of Cloud9, and I want to look at those steps along the way. So Gina, before Cloud9, you were working for many years in the fashion industry. A bit about where you worked and what that work entailed.
Yes. Well, I would say Michelle and myself, our journey was really together, then separate, and then back together now at Cloud9. And I say that because my career really started I worked at a few companies when I graduated college, and then I believe I really found my home in the garment industry at a men's loungewear company. And Michelle wound up coming to that same company probably 6 months after me. And when I started there, I was just a production assistant, doing assistant type duties. And as the years unfolded, I think I had worked there a total of 12 to 13 years. And as the years unfolded, I moved up to a production manager, then a production director. And then, in my final years that I was there, I was doing the production and sourcing for the company. And it was great. I really consider that job my true education, because while I was there, I was fortunate. They sent me all over the world, and I've been to fabric mills, and I went to garment, cutting facilities, and it was quite an education. But I wound up leaving that company because my personal life had changed. I had gotten married and I had a baby, and I live in New Jersey. I was working in the city. It was quite a commute. So I wound up taking a job closer, significantly closer to my home in New Jersey. But I will be honest, that was a horrible job. I really did not like it at all. And I questioned, oh my gosh, why did I leave my old job? It was so great. Everyone was so wonderful there. And, but I really do look at it that, at the time it seemed horrible, but it was really probably one of the best things that ever happened to me, because had I not gone there, I would have never had the kind of push to start my own thing and do this with Michelle, because, it really pushed me.
It was a catalyst.
It was a catalyst, exactly. It was a catalyst, and really enabled me to think outside the box and do this thing. And I'm really grateful for that, I have to say.
Right.
So what bad experiences really can bring about wonderful opportunities.
Yeah, and then that combination with having so many years really learning about how fabrics were made and sourcing in the fashion industry, you really, those two things combined, that plus a feeling of like, hey, I don't really want to be working here anymore. Maybe I need to strike out on my own, was like the golden combo. So when you were traveling for this men's loungewear company where you were working, and you were visiting all of these different facilities all over the world where the fabrics are actually created that become the clothes that we wear. So tell us a little bit about sort of, a memory or experience that really stuck with you from those travels.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, I've been to cotton farms, so I've seen the actual crops. I've been to the facility where they gin the cotton, where they, prepare the bales of cotton, where they then take it and spin it into yarns. But I will tell you, and all the way up through the actual cutting and sewing of a finished product. But one of my memories, and this is like a glaring memory, I went to a fabric finishing, it was a dyeing and finishing operation. And I walked in there, and these poor mill workers are standing in there. They are not in shoes. There is dye probably 3 inches deep on the floor, and they're walking through this operation with no shoes. Dye is just permeating into their feet. And oh my gosh, I walked out of there and I was like, no way. There was just no way. And this was back in my garment days, but I walked in there and I was it was appalling. I mean, the whole operation was appalling, but that particular visual, I will remember that for the rest of my life.
I bet. And what country was that in?
That was in China.
Okay. Wow. And around what year? I'm just curious, like, what year that was.
I was just going to say, that was in China a long time ago. That was in about 1998.
Okay.
Things have changed since then.
There's been a lot of implementation of standards now on these mills.
Yeah. But you know what? I'm going to be candid. Even today, you can go into some mills and they're not all of the same caliber. They're really not. They are not. And yes, there are standards in place, but do they really follow all of these standards? No, they all don't.
Right. Okay. So
we're very particular.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. So I'm just thinking that experience, which really, I mean, I can't help but have like a personal impact on you as well as a professional impact, right? But I feel like that stayed with you and you took that with you to Cloud9. Am I right there?
Oh,
I mean, I feel like that's become part and parcel of Cloud9, which we'll get to sort of what the defining characteristics of Cloud9 are, but I feel like that's going to become one of them, for sure. And go ahead.
It's very, I will say, the mills that we work with, that is a very important part of what I do and a very important part of what my daily, tasks are. I really take that into consideration. And from every perspective, I've been in facilities, I've seen, and there's different standards for age, depending on whatever country you go to. Some countries it may be 13, some countries it may be 14, some countries I think it's as young as 12. But I can tell you, I've been in cut and sew facilities and I've seen small children on the sewing machines. They could not have been over 10 years old. So that too, hugely impactful, and definitely something that is a huge consideration for me when I'm sourcing our mills.
Yeah, especially now that you're a mother as well. I mean, I feel
my gosh.
Right? It hits so much harder once you actually have children and you imagine your children in this experience,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
For sure. Okay, so there's that piece. And Michelle, I want to talk a little bit about your journey as well. So you spent 15 years living in New York and working as a design director. And I want to know a little bit about what that job was like. And were you designing fabrics for that?
Yeah, I'm going to rewind a little bit because I think some people like to hear my story kind of from the beginning of... Because I'm always asked, like, where did you get your education, this and that? And the fact is, I did not get an education in this industry. I actually went to school for photography. And then after school was over, I took a bunch of smaller jobs, but they were all creative. And then finally, my mother was working for a company as a freelance artist in New York City, a garment manufacturer. And they needed a design assistant to help with, just general tasks of the design studio. And so I took that. And it was like very eye-opening. It was my first professional atmosphere, really. And I found that I actually liked the business aspects of the design, too. I felt like it just spoke to me. Like I kind of liked hearing about sales and marketing and production and things like that. So I became a sponge. And then within a year, I left that company and I became a full designer at another company, which is where I met Gina. And then I think it was like a year, maybe not even 2 years, I became the design director of that company. I just was very tenacious about learning and becoming valuable and really giving myself a stronghold in these companies. So what I did there as a design director it was a lot of different levels because in the design area there's many tasks. Not only just designing fabrics, which is one of the primary goals, designing the prints themselves and the plaids. There is also merchandising to help put together cohesive groups of prints and patterns. And then there was organizing all of the information, and because we worked with mills that kept screens, so you had to maintain libraries so we could recolor things over and over and over again. So it was really a very overseeing position, but primarily I was working with salespeople and buyers to create collections for these private label companies, these businesses that we had. And so I was really a bridge between business and design.
Yeah, that's so cool.
And that's how I really worked closely with Gina, because she was constantly there, and we really were like constantly intertwined. Our business really overlapped. So whatever I did affected her, whatever she did affected me.
Because it would start off, I mean, everything would really initiate in Michelle's area. And then my area, once the initial concepts and the designs and all of that were final, then it was really my areas. We took over from there. We put it into production. We had all of the components of the production coordinated to arrive together, and that includes labels, tags, fabrics, threads, buttons. That would all have to be coordinated and put together at the cut and sew facility. And then my area would continue to follow it up with the shipping of it into the U.S., the arrival of it, the clearing of the customs, the arrival at our warehouse, and then finally the distribution to all of the large, because we worked with very large retailers, all of the large retailers throughout the U.S. that we were supplying. And yeah, so I mean, like, there was definitely there's like a moment in the life cycle of a product where Michelle and I essentially overlap, and it was like, okay, here it is, and then she hands it off, and then my area kind of took over. But yeah, I mean, she and I worked very closely for years.
Right.
And that's why not to kind of delve immediately into Cloud9, but I really do believe that this is why we have such a great partnership. And I used to teach at FIT time, and I would always tell my students, because they wonder, like, do you recommend having a business partner? Do you think that it's better to do it on your own? And I said, it's really interesting, because if you do it on your own, it's all yours. But if you do it on your own, it's all yours.
That's right.
But so it's like this kind of seesaw. But the other issue is if you're going to bring on a business partner, you're essentially married to that person. You need to trust that person. I mean, I trust Michelle like I trust my husband. I trust her. Yeah. I know that she's not going to make a bad decision for the company. I know she reciprocates, but it really is like a marriage, and you just can't start a business with any old person. You have to be, intimately aware of how this person operates and works.
I was just going to say, I feel like you have this, not only do you guys have this trust and this long-standing relationship of working together, but also you have really complementary backgrounds and skill sets as well.
Yes. Without a doubt. We say often that she's the yin to my yang, and we both understand what the other does, but we don't really get too involved. We're a good sounding board. We have opinions, but ultimately we kind of stay out of each other's business.
Yes, really.
And that actually makes it easier, because both of us are very determined and knowledgeable people. Yeah. So we don't need the help, but you do sometimes just want to ping an idea off of somebody. It's like, am I off base here? So, it helps keep you balanced.
Right. Exactly. So, okay. So Michelle, after that job, you did, I think, leave, right? Eventually, and start something on your own, Cicada Studio, where you were developing and producing fabrics on your own. So tell us a little bit about that step.
Okay. So while I was working in it was like when blogs were on the rise, Etsy was just starting, and I definitely fell for all that. And I also saw a brighter future for me, rather than designing the same old prints over and over and over again. And, just the grind of the city work, and the business shifts over time, and your buyers shift. And it's working in the industry, it's exhausting after a while. And after, I think, a point, I was just disinterested in going any further, So it was something that I wanted to do. I started dabbling in my own designs that I thought were good, because as a creative director and working with buyers who think they know everything, and they understand their business, but they're very conservative and they would never branch out. So it was very dull design work. And I being me, I thought I had great ideas, and I thought that like people would like what I do. So it was an opportunity to design my own prints, and that's where Cicada Studio came into play. I was able to just, follow my own path and just get it out there. I was having things digitally printed, and I was selling them on Etsy, and it was amazing to me that people would pay as much money for my fabrics as they were, because as you can imagine, this was over 10 years ago. Digital printing was just starting. There was no spoon flour at the time. It was a pretty penny, and people were still buying it. So with that in mind, I was like, I know I've got a marketable product, I just need to bring the price down. Here comes all that business information that I've been absorbing over the years. It was also at that time, after I left that job, I had known a few people over at Henry Glass. We worked together for years and years, and they gave me an opportunity to design for them as well. So I did a couple of licensed collections with Henry Glass at the same time as I was doing Cicada Studio. And that gave me my first introduction to the quilt market. A little bit different kind of marketing and merchandising and things like that. But ultimately, nothing completely unfamiliar to me, because it was still print-based, and I like parameters as a designer. So, you tell me, you need this kind of print, and you need some blenders, and you need to keep things like this. I'm like, okay, done. And so I did a few collections with them. But at the same time, and this is all happening at once, Cicada Studio was building, and that was a definitely different look than what I was doing for the quilt fabrics. And so at some point, I proposed this to Henry Glass, and it really wasn't their thing, and I totally understand that. But I was like, okay, that's fine. But it really set in my mind that I needed to still do my own thing. And with that, I contacted Gina, who I knew was consulting or like branching off on her idea where she might be doing consulting. So I was like, let me consult with my old friend Gina, because I know she knows what's going on. And then I like to let Gina take over the story as far as the origins of our business, because she tells it so nicely, succinctly.
Well, so she contacted me and was like, hey, how's it going? And I'm like, not good. And I'm like, I asked her, how's it going? And she said, it's okay, but I really want my business to grow. And initially, the way I remember the story is she was talking about growing her business, and I was like, okay. And I tried to get a feel for how big she was thinking, and she was talking about, maybe we could do like a couple 100 yards. And I honestly was like, if you're going to do a couple 100 yards, I'll give you the mill names. You just go for it, because I'm not going to be able to eat on a couple 100 yards of fabric. So then she was like, well, what do you think? And I literally sat down and I'm like, okay, how much does it need to be? How much does it need to cost? How much do we need to buy? Yeah. So, and I really ran numbers, and I came back to Michelle probably like 2 days later. I'm like, here's the deal. You need to put up this much money. I need to put up this much money. This is what we need to buy, and we just have to really believe. And I believe in it. And I said, I believe in it. Mm-hmm. And I'm not even kidding. We were at the accountant's office 3 weeks later, and we incorporated. It was that fast.
Yeah. Well, first, I mean,
we basically built a business over bagels.
You knew,
we did.
You knew you had a good idea. You knew you could work together. You knew what needed to come together to make the fabric itself. Like you had the understanding of the way the business worked to be able to actually make it. It wasn't a pipe dream. I mean, it was realistic. Like you knew what you needed to do, and that you would be a good partner. So a lot of those components had already kind of come together. But I like the idea that, Gina, you were like, no, we got to think big here. Like this isn't going to be right.
Always the big, that's my thing.
I mean, here I'm selling on Etsy. I sell a few hundred.
Right.
If I could sell a few 100 yards, I would consider myself a success in the realm of the Etsy environment.
Right.
But Gina, in her typical way, shines a light where it's just like, no, let's go bigger, let's go bolder. And, I'm always on board for that. I just don't always come up with that on my own.
Right. Okay.
So I just...
Yeah. So you changed the name, obviously, right? You were Cicada Studio. So what was the idea there where you're like, well, I'm going to change the name and become Cloud9? Was there a problem with that other name, or did you just want to like start over, or?
It was a different business to me in my mind. Cicada Studio was really my personal endeavor. The reason it's called Cicada Studio is because I love cicadas. Don't ask me why. I just think they're awesome. But I would never impose that on my business partner because it is a bug. And also, it was a different idea. One of the things that we didn't really talk about our business breakfast building business there was that Gina had mentioned at that time, what about organics?
Oh, yeah.
That was a big part of it. That was the other big piece.
So one of the things, as we were kind of hashing this out, I said to Michelle, here's the thing. There are a million fabric companies right now. If we come out and we're just, another fabric company, that's fine. But is there something that we could do that would really distinguish us from the rest? Is there something that we can do that will really set us apart? And we tossed around a couple of ideas, and I think I may have said, how about organics? Because they were really just starting. Yeah. And at that point, we were both moms. We're both advocates of healthy food choices. And so I said it, and she's like, I love it.
My eyes bugged out, and I'm like, if you think we can do it, I think that would be perfect. I mean, not only would it set us apart, it would create a little bit of a niche for us.
Yes.
It just felt right. I mean, both of us having the business experience that we had seen some things that we just were not really proud of in a sense of being a part of. But, this was a good combination for us. It's something that we definitely think is worth doing. And, so now the real challenge was to find our market, find our customer, get the price right, and just keep going based on it. And Abby, really, it's important to understand we did this in 2008, just as the market dropped.
Oh yeah.
And everything was basically shutting down, and we're starting an organic cotton fabric business in the middle of all this.
Yes, right. Yeah.
So, it was really just, here we are, we're asking people to basically pay more at a time when people are trying to not spend anything at all.
But you know what? There was such a void in the market at that time. There was such a void. And not only was there, and this is the other thing that kind of sets us apart, not only was there a void in terms of organics at that time, but there was a void in terms of fresh, modern fabric choices. Things definitely have come a long way since then. But in 2008, people walked into our booth at Quilt Market and were just... It's so fresh. It's so fresh. I mean, the response we got. And
people thought it was like an oasis for the eyes, it was like it was like cool and earthy, like fresh and simple. There was no clutter, and
So I think that
we definitely stood out.
Yeah, and I think that the organic element was huge for us then. Yeah. But I think what has kind of brought us to where we are now too is really like, I will give Michelle's design direction has really pushed us forward because they love our modern aesthetic, and shops never know what we're going to put out next. What's the next collection going to be? What's the next substrate going to be? And I think we're to the point where people love that they're organic, but people now, even if they don't necessarily care about, eco-conscious fabrics, they just like what we do because it's beautiful and it's priced fairly in line with some of the other designer fabrics. So
I feel like there's like these three components here, right? There's the socially compliant mills. That was a big part of this as well. And then there's organics, and then there's design. And those three things coming together are to me what defines Cloud9 and sets it apart from other companies. So I want to talk about, I feel like we've talked about the first one, and I want to talk about the organic piece a little bit. I think, 5 years ago even, there were assumptions among kind of regular consumers of fabric about what organic fabric might look like. Like it might be sort of boring. It might have a limited color range, maybe just kind of, I don't know, like natural looking hues that wouldn't be bright or vibrant or, and then also, it was going to be more expensive, the way that organic produce, is more expensive than typical produce. And do you really need to spend, $4 extra for a yard of fabric when, so there's certain things that I think kind of pop up in people's minds, or at least did then. I'm not really sure it does now, but back then. So was there kind of an uphill climb on the sort of convincing consumers that this was really organic and was really beautiful and was still affordable?
I have to say, you ask a fantastic question, and I will tell you, our business has changed and we've morphed, and we've really tried to give the market what the market wants. And I will be candid with you. When we started, our fabrics were retailing a little over $16, and it was a tough sell. It was a tough sell. Fabric shops were having a tough time. Now, and I looked at that, and I have to tell you, I said, all right, our distribution is definitely limited here. And the number one issue I hear from shops is it's just too expensive. So it was my job to find a way to bring these fabrics to the market at a more reasonable price point, or a price point that is in line. And I have to tell you, organic cotton farming methods are so much more labor intensive and time consuming, and there are so many more parameters involved with organic cotton farming that, of course, it's going to cost more. But when you really know all of the benefits, or let me put it to you this way, all of the negative effects with conventional cotton farming, the extra, 50 cents a yard that our fabrics may be now, because we did find a way to bring the price down, but it is so worth it if you are at all aware of what goes into conventional cotton farming.
Yeah,
but I digress.
I just wanted to interject briefly because I spent 2 years living in the Mississippi Delta, which is a place where a lot of cotton is grown, and there would be like cotton dust on the side of the road. It looked like it snowed. I mean, I went through the whole crop cycle, sort of watching what was going on in the fields. And I was a school teacher, so I would drive to school in the morning, and these crop dusters would fly really low to the highway, like really low to the car, these big yellow planes, and just spray the fields. And it was oh my gosh, there's like poison spraying down on me. It was so scary. I would like roll up the windows, it's just like, don't breathe.
No, don't breathe is right. And I will tell you, they have done studies, and the amount of illnesses found in people that live around conventional cotton farms is so far beyond what you would expect. The rates of asthma, cancer, lung disease, just an assortment of ailments. It's not good. It's terrible. And I rarely pontificate about these things, but when I get on the subject, oh my gosh, it is terrible. It's really awful.
And it's not just the airborne dust. I mean, this all lands in the soil. It goes into their water system. So, if they're living off well water, this is part of their existence now.
Yeah. I know that what organic means when you say, "Oh, this is organic fabric." What that means actually can mean a lot of different things. There's the different percentages of organic fibers, and it's not like organic fabric is one thing. It is many different things. So how did you arrive at what it was going to mean for Cloud9?
Well, when we started, we knew we wanted to do organic, and we knew that we wanted it to be 100% organic. We're also savvy enough, and we've been in the business long enough that you could have 5% of your yarns be organic, and you can still tout it as organic, but we did not want to do that. We wanted our cotton to be 100% certified organic cotton, printed with low impact dyes, and with a social compliance element thrown in. So really, and I always say this, like, we look at it like it's basically a 3-prong kind of organic. It's organic by 3 standards. It's the growing of the cotton. It is the printing and finishing of the fabric, and it is also the human rights element and the factory workers' work environment. Sorry, yeah. So we really look at it from those 3 elements, and I think, and I think that most of the cotton producers in our industry, in this industry, that are selling organic cottons, I would assume they also look at it that way. But if you see a garment that says that it's organic cotton, It may or may not be 100% organic cotton. It may or may not be printed with low impact dyes. It may or may not be produced at a socially compliant facility. Right. Unless it's certified. Right.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And so you really set a high bar. You know, you set a high bar, and you had this pricing issue where you needed to bring the price down. It sounds like, I mean, $16. It was a struggle. Were you able to shave that down a little bit?
Yeah, we were. I got very aggressive in my sourcing. I started talking to other resources, and I was very aggressive with them in terms of what they were going to do for me as far as price goes. And we were very fortunate. We are working with several mills right now that were able to give us what we wanted, and that was a quality product that is certified organic with beautiful execution of the prints too. I mean, I have to say our mills are very good. They execute the printing process well. But yeah, I mean, I had to definitely get assertive and be aggressive, and I got the job done.
Yeah, totally. So explain to people, I think people sometimes say, well, how come it's not printed in the USA, right? Like if it's all of these wonderful things that make it a better choice, well then why are you buying cotton from, a country other than our own? And I know that there are really good reasons behind that, and I just want to get those out into the open.
Yeah, no, great. And I have to tell you, we're asked this frequently, and I'm always happy to talk to people about this because I want them to understand our perspective. First of all, the world's largest producer of organic cotton is India. So I will tell you, all of our organic cotton is grown in India or on the Indian subcontinent. The United States of America has very, very, very limited organic cotton crops. Very limited. Cotton producers get subsidies from the government. I don't believe they get subsidies if they're producing organic cotton. So everyone in the U.S., except for the one little individual living perhaps in Alabama, everyone is producing conventional cottons and spraying the heck out of their crops. So first of all, our actual base cloth, our fibers, are being grown in the Indian subcontinent. Interestingly, I did a little research as to printing facilities in the U.S. So even though you may be able to find very, very limited resources in the U.S. on organic cotton, you probably could. The real problem lies in the printing facility. I have not had any exposure, and I have to tell you, I have been looking. I have not had any exposure to any facilities in the U.S. that are low impact dye compliant or organic compliant in terms of their printing and finishing processes. In order to be organically compliant, you have to have a regenerating facility. So any of the excess dyes and the runoff water do not go into the local water stream or local water supply. And there is a list of chemicals that you can use and still have them considered low impact dyes. And then there's a list that you cannot use. And we have not found one printing facility in the U.S. that could be deemed low impact or organic compliant.
But also, there's just not that many mills left anymore in the U.S. that do printing. It's all been moved offshore for the most part. When I first started in this business, most of our printing was done in Massachusetts, and our garments were made in Tennessee. And since then, I mean, that was in the span of my 15, 16 years in the industry. It was all moved offshore.
Oh, yeah.
So it's very, very difficult to find somebody who can kind of do that kind of printing. And I think it was actually pigment printed, too. And so the hand feel on that fabric is not what you expect for quilter's cotton as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's a lot of variables.
Yeah, no, and I think that that's really important for people to hear, like from people who've seriously looked into it and aren't just, choosing this because it's the easiest option or it's the cheapest option, but really it is the only option.
Most viable option.
Yeah, the only viable option.
Yeah. We have to have a product that's going to be affordable, meets our requirements, and we keep looking.
Okay. I want to now talk about sort of what I feel like is the third distinctive part of Cloud9, and that's the design. And we touched on it a little bit about your Quilt Market booth the first time you went and sort of the reaction that you got. And Michelle, I know this is sort of what you focus on. So I feel like your portfolio of designers, it's incredibly impressive and exciting to look through. And you have, each person has a really unique vision and a unique aesthetic, and you design as well. So I'm just wondering sort of what are you looking for when you're choosing a designer, and who are some of the exciting ones that exciting designers you're working with this year?
The first thing, what am I looking for? It's going to sound ridiculously vague, but I don't know what I'm looking for, but I know it when I see it. It's literally as simple as that. It will usually fill a void that I don't think we're doing with another designer. I just find it fresh and exciting. I have usually found a deeper portfolio other than the things that they've submitted, and I like their entire aesthetic about like all sorts of things. So I can't give you any I'm looking for modern, I'm looking for painters, I'm looking for, somebody with, a sort of whimsy. It's very spontaneous, my decision making. And I will find designers in any number of ways. I think the biggest way to date, and it's changing a little bit over the last couple of years, is I would reach out to designers. There would be an artist that I saw and I would be like, I want that person working with us because I think that what they do is going to make great fabric.
I'm just wondering where you're seeing them. So like when you're, you kind of are looking and you discover somebody and you're like, ooh, that is gorgeous. That's what I want. I want them to work with. Where is it that you're seeing that image?
I'm an online person for the most part. So, I see a lot of things online. And you remember I got my start in Etsy, so there was no lack of talent around me there. So it was very inspiring, and that just all leads to other designers as you kind of traipse through the world of that. Pinterest is certainly something that helps me a lot because things just flash by my eyes, and as soon as I see something, it doesn't take much to find out a little bit about that person, and I can easily see a depth of portfolio and this is what this person does, and fantastic, and I really want to have a conversation with them. So I would say it's all fairly online. With the exception of our character book licenses like Ed Emberley and Mo Willems and Goodnight Moon, we reached out to them. And Ed Emberley was just somebody that I had an affinity for because I grew up with his drawing books, and that worked out great. And Mo Willems, my kids love Don't Let the Pigeon Drive the Bus. So we contacted Mo and Mo's people, and that was great. And then Goodnight Moon actually got wind of us, and they contacted us because their license had just recently expired with the company they were working with, and they saw the work that we'd been doing with other people and said, "This is the company for us." Mm-hmm. So that was very complimentary.
Right.
Okay. Then there's other designers. Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say so. I guess to me that speaks to, for people who sort of aspire to design fabric either with Cloud9 or with, another company, is to make great work and to put that work out consistently. And as you said, you're looking for an overall aesthetic, like an in-depth portfolio. So it's not just, I made a collection of, 6 prints and I'm going to submit them to you. It's like, what else have you done? What, what does it all look like over how long, and that sort of thing. And I think that's an important point to make. I also wonder though about audience. So when you are selecting a new designer, or considering a new designer, does their audience play a role? Does their number of Instagram followers at all infiltrate your thinking? I'm just curious to know, does that figure into the equation?
The business aspect of me can do some quick calculations, and you know what? No, it never hurts if you've got somebody with a following. clearly that's going to help, but it is not a major sway for me. Also, some of the people that we work with, they have experience or followers in another industry, and those people may not sew. So whether their fans know about us, they may not require our fabric, whether they love that artist or not. So it's still has to be marketable in our industry.
Right.
And I like to find people who I feel are really filling a void, like this has never been done before, or that I just feel has a bond with our aesthetic. And, I know that it kind of runs the gamut with all our different artists, but I do say, like, if you actually walk into my house, you're going to find all sorts of different things going on in my home. It's like I love everything from abstract expressionism to, mid-century modern to Renaissance. So I have a varied taste. I think a lot of people have a varied taste. I also don't want to be all things to all people. So I don't expect everybody to love every single collection we do with the same passion. That, like if you love time work, you might not be so interested in
nursery flannels.
Yeah, nursery flannels. Yeah, exactly. But there's something for somebody in pretty much every offering that we have, I think.
Okay.
So I have a lot of instincts kind of firing up as I choose the people to work with. And I do want to say, like, over the last year, I think I've picked up more industry people and people who have been more geared towards pattern design. And, I think it was just the way I started. I kind of want to give voice to people who didn't necessarily have that. Uh-huh. And I think it has definitely helped bring a certain look to our offerings, like what we're about. And I think that helped get us noticed a lot more. And now we're working with some more people who are a little more recognizable in this industry too. So it's all good. We're ever evolving.
Right. Yeah, I'm sure that's true. And for the people who you bring in who maybe are coming from, the world of being an illustrator, for example, and or being a painter, and maybe haven't had a ton of surface pattern design experience, how much help are you able to provide, as far as helping them to tile their designs and make a repeat that's going to work and all that sort of thing? I mean, is it hands-on or is it hands-off?
For me, it's completely hands-on. I don't expect an illustrator to know how to do textile design. We'll do everything. I mean, you give me the painting or you give me this, I need a high-res scan and we'll do the rest. Wow. And everything is very collaborative though, because we don't just say, okay, and this is what it is. We want opinions. Like, does this meet your aesthetic as well? Does this feel right to you? Oftentimes, people who don't have experience in this particular industry will, they'll be like, well, you're the boss. You know what to do with this stuff. If you think this works for your business, then who am I to say? I mean, I'm happy with it. So, and that's very nice that they trust, my instincts. So,
okay. And I feel like there's been, I don't know, like a trend or sort of a shift in substrates. I feel like when I look at what's coming out at Quilt Market, it's not just quilting cottons anymore. We're seeing a lot of, substrates that are better for sewing garments. We're seeing, walls. We're seeing all kinds of things that are better for home decor. I don't know. I feel like there's an expansion of substrates, and you're right up there with that. What kinds of fabrics do you offer right now?
Okay. Well, our quilters cotton. We do canvas, voile, corduroy, like a baby whale corduroy. A bark cloth, flannel, and we will be doing some knits.
Okay.
You heard it first.
Yeah. Hooray. I mean, knits are everywhere, right? Knits are so exciting. And I just wonder, why do you think this shift is coming about? I mean, it's a great shift. And, quilting cotton has, I feel like for a while now, had some really beautiful and exciting prints that would lend themselves so well to other substrates. But now we're really seeing it happen. And I wonder if you have any insight on why that's happening.
I have a thought, and I actually think that there's a lot. There's really a shift with the younger generations, and they're getting into sewing, and it's becoming a hobby that's definitely on the rise with the under 30s. And I think when they start sewing, they're not necessarily perhaps drawn to quilting, but they want to make garments. And
they see all this wonderful fabric, these wonderful prints, and
I mean, and it's funny because there's been some research done. Sewing machine sales are on the rise. Sewing classes are on the rise, but this is all for the under 30s, and they're doing a lot of garment sewing. So I think all of a sudden there's a need for these other substrates that are not just merely for producing quilts, but for doing other projects as well. I don't know what you think, Michelle, but
that's definitely one thing. I think it's just creative people. Also, they want to try new things. I think if you put it out there, people will want it. I also work with designers whose art in particular would lend itself to certain kinds of substrates for different end uses. When I work with, I'm going to bring up Time Warp again, when I work with Jessica Jones on that, she has this mid-century modern bent to her artwork, and bark cloth was a perfect base cloth for her artwork. And then when we worked with Avril Lavigne, her artwork would really shine as a garment. So we did it on voile. So there's a lot of reasons why, and certain, like when we work with Bray Hoekstra, she is a garment, and so, doing things like flannel and micro wale corduroy works really well for her, especially because she does a lot of kids patterns too. So there's a good reason for doing these things. But I'll tell you, another little thing about it is it's just because we want to. I mean, it's a little bit selfish. It's like you see these base cloths come by you and the mill says, oh, we can do this. And you're like, wow, this is nice. Yeah. So, we're like, who can we get to design that one? So there's a little bit of that too. And that is one of the best perks about having your own business is you kind of can do what you want.
Has there been a shift for you? I'm just thinking because both of you came from a manufacturing background, really, right? Like, so you were working with with creating fabrics, but they were fabrics that would be manufactured to become sort of mass market garments. And now you're still creating fabrics, but they are for the home sewing industry. And I just wonder, was there sort of a mental shift, that had to come about? I mean, you didn't really necessarily come from a home sewing background. So was there was there a learning curve there?
Well, it's two things. Go back 30 years. I'm 14 years old, and I started sewing, and I loved it. I cannot draw, so I'm not artistically inclined that way. But for me, sewing was really my one creative outlet where I could pick fabrics that I knew this is going to drape perfectly in this, gathered skirt or whatever. So for me, when I was 14 and I started to sew, it was like a whole new world. I literally knew at that moment, I'm going to go to FIT and I'm going to have a job in the fashion industry. I don't know what that job is going to be, but that is what I want to do. And and obviously the years unfolded and here I am. But for me, producing fabrics, I could literally do this in my sleep compared to producing garments.
Garments is like
garment production
stopping halfway.
Holy smokes, garment production is so much more involved because there are so many components that go into a garment. There's labels, there's tags, there's buttons, there's thread, there's rivets, there's, fabric is you're making one component of the product that you make when you make a garment or a finished product. So the shift was, yay, this is so easy.
That's awesome. All right. So I think that I just want to see if there's anything new about, what's coming up. I know you mentioned knits, but sort of as a final wrap-up question before we get into our recommendations, is there anything kind of you really wanted to touch on, or anything new you wanted to talk about?
Let's see. I feel like I'm on that, there's so much going on in my office right now.
All right. I will take this really. You ask us this question and you ask us this question while we are in the middle of moving our headquarters. We're literally sitting here right now in a temporary space because our permanent office is being essentially built out and outfitted. We should be moving in there, I would say, next week. But you have really, it's funny, this chat has really come about at a point when we are really looking forward. And I come in every day and I'm like, oh my gosh, I just keep looking forward, because there are, that's a huge thing for us, moving into a more, appropriate and I don't know. It's going to just be more effective and more efficient, because it's everybody's got their own space. We're not on top of each other anymore. So that's something that we're dealing with.
That's internally, on the outside, as far as what we're offering coming up. I mean, Quilt Market is literally right around the corner, and we're very, very painfully aware of that at the moment. But we have a lot of new designers that are coming out. Anna Graham, who's Noodlehead, she has her first collection ever on fabric coming out with us. We have partnered up with Ink and Spindle out of Australia. They do their own printing, screen printing, hand screen printing in their studio in Melbourne.
Yes, they are in Melbourne.
And so we're excited to bring their look to our market. Here I'm on the spot. Okay,
yeah,
I have
anybody else you want to talk
Jessica Nielsen out of the Netherlands. I have another artist. We haven't actually promoted her yet, Sarah Betts. She's out of the UK by way of Belgium. And then I'm missing somebody, and I hate that.
I know we have a new corduroy collection that's going to be coming out. Yeah. That. By Elizabeth Olwen, and that will be previewed at Quilt Market too. So we're pretty excited about that one.
I love how international this is. It's really you're bringing together. You're pulling from all over the world, and it's really exciting. So
that's why you can tell I pull from the internet for the most part, because I don't travel like that. I mean, it would be really nice, but I don't get out that much. So the internet brings the world to your doorstep, and I have really been able to expand that way. Yeah, that's actually not very intentional. It just is the way it is. It's a nice thing. I'm missing somebody. I'm missing, I think, 2 people. I'm sorry. It's like, I know how people, when they have to thank people at the Oscars now, they get all confused. I'm like, I know I'm forgetting somebody, and I feel so horrible.
Well, if it comes back to you, we can say it at the end. It's no problem. But all right, I want to dive into our lists a little bit, because you guys have a couple of fun things to recommend. And so, Michelle, we're going to start with you. And you wanted to recommend shopping on eBay for some discontinued fashion styles from Doc Martens. So go for it.
I bought a pair of boots. It was probably 15 years ago, and they're still with me, and I love them. So I was trying to find them. And, of course, they've been discontinued. And I started my search on eBay, which just brought me to, more good, great-looking styles from Doc Martens. It totally departured from their combat boots. And, so now I'm getting, really kind of into the nitty-gritty of it. And I've even found some really cool sandals, with a wedge heel. I'm telling you, I'm totally addicted right now. I have, all sorts of alerts going off for me every time. I'm I have these, parameters of, the search fields. And it's when I get a little ding on that, I'm all over it.
So were you able to replace the discontinued ones?
I have not. I'm thankful that they're holding up as well as they are, because they are old now, but they have not crossed my path. Okay. I keep my eye. They'll be mine.
And Gina, you wanted to talk about a book called Unbroken by Lauren Hillenbrand.
Yes, it's wonderful. Have you seen the movie?
No, I see very few movies.
Okay, well, I will say this: the book is definitely better than the movie, and the movie was fantastic. But it's essentially this story of this child of Italian immigrants, and he's growing up in California. His childhood was before World War II, and essentially it goes on to tell of his journey, his experiences in World War II, and it's called Unbroken because no matter what this man encountered, his spirit remained unbroken, and he is such an inspiration because he lived, I believe, to the ripe old age of 97. And literally, like, I was reading the events of his life after he returned from the war. And the man took up skateboarding at 70. I mean, this guy, and I'm serious, like,
inspirational.
He is so, and he should have been dead 6 times over. I mean, God just did not want this man to die. He did not want him to perish, because there were so many instances in this man's life where there is no way he should have lived through that. And God bless him, he did. I mean, it was such a wonderful story. And if you have a choice to read the book or see the movie, read the book. The book goes into much more detail, and it is amazing.
All right, good one. Thank you for that. So, all right, and Michelle, you and your husband are taking archery lessons. So that sounds awesome. And I have to just tell you a very quick story about when I was in summer camp, a sleepaway camp as a kid, and I didn't know what archery was, never heard the word before. We were, so I was by myself. It was sleepaway camp, and we had to sign up for activities. They gave us a list of different things you could check off, and I thought archery sounded like art, and so I checked it off. I had no idea what it was. So I got there and I was like, totally scared, because they give you this lecture about how you can like slice your finger off with the right. So I like ran away, and I like skipped archery for the entire rest of the summer. Like every day when it would happen, I was just like, go hide, and I never went. So anyway, that's my only archery experience. So, but it sounds like you're having a much better one. So tell us about that.
I am, and it's funny. It's like I don't know why I've wanted to do this for, I don't know, decades probably. And you say things like this to yourself, I want to do this, I want to do that, and you just never do. And then of course, the Hunger Games comes out, and everybody's like what a cool thing to do, and it just kept reaffirming, like, I definitely want to do this. So we did, and my husband got me the lessons for Christmas, and we've been going. I mean, we've had 3 lessons now, and we're going to go for our next 3. And I know that we've made a lot of progress since the day one, and we are being trained by a school that actually does Olympic training as well. So they're really into telling me about the form and posture and all the little things that you need to know in order to be a great marksman. And it's just really exciting. I mean, I'm never going to take it to that level. I'm just happy to know how to hit the target. And we see we're getting better, and that's a really thrilling thing. And honestly, shooting an arrow, I don't know, there's like a thrill in that, it's like, I mean, they don't ever let you forget that, like, there's like, when not to shoot, and how you can really hurt somebody. There's a bit of danger element. But we're all being trained the proper way to take safety precautions. So it's good.
I was going to say, I think taking a class with your husband together, like learning a new skill together. My husband and I took ballroom dancing classes, and it's good. Like, it's good for you to focus on sort of learning something new together.
Yeah. I mean, and I'll just give you this as an aside. My husband and I can be a little competitive. I mean, we're not like evil competitive, but like there is a little like, all right, you're good. I need to up my game.
That's funny.
We took a printmaking course last year, and he just totally blew me away. I was like, all right, this is your bag. I had fun, but he rocked it.
All right, and Gina, you get the last recommendation goes to you, and you wanted to recommend your Fitbit.
Oh my gosh, yes. All right. So speaking of husbands, my husband is a super athlete. He does marathons in under 3 hours. He's crazy. And I'm sorry, when it is degrees outside like it was this morning, I need something to keep me moving. And I have to say, overall, like, he and I are a good pair because I'm fairly athletic. I don't do marathons or anything insane like that, but I do enjoy hiking and outdoorsy things. Like, he taught me to surf, and I like all of that. I like to be moving and active. But when it is 4, I just want to sit on my couch with the book and eat potato chips. And it's not a good thing. It's really not. So I needed something to inspire me to move more, especially in these cold months, because in the summer I will move all the time. But for Christmas, I wound up getting this Fitbit, and I have to tell you, it's amazing. I check it. I'm like, I only did 8,000 steps. Let me go run upstairs and do the laundry and walk around a little bit, because I want my 10,000 steps every single day, which I have to be honest is not always easy. It's not always, and you don't realize how little you move until you start to track it. And I really have to say I love this because it has inspired me to move more than I would each day. So I really do love it. And for those of you that don't want to, like, all you have to do is walk around and it's 10,000 steps and it's, you feel really good about yourself when you hit it.
So do you get like does like a little alert go off when you hit it? Does it like vibrate or make a little song or something?
I'm glad you asked, because the first time it happened, I'm like, what the heck is this? I'm like walking along and all of a sudden my arm starts vibrating. I'm like, what is wrong? And I look down and I see like 10,000 is flashing. I'm like, ooh, that's a good thing. So yes, you do get an alert. And I have not hit the 20,000. I almost hit 15,000 one day that I was doing a lot of stuff, but I don't know what happens if you hit other goals, but yes, at 10,000 it does.
Starts falling from the sky.
Yeah, once you hit 20,000, you have streamers, confetti, and exactly. But I really do like it, and it helps keep motivated.
That's awesome. So, Gina and Michelle, I really enjoyed talking to you. This has been a lot of fun. Thank you so much for coming on the While She Naps podcast.
Thank you for inviting us. Thank you.
Yeah. So where can we connect with Cloud9 online? Where should we find you?
Cloud9fabrics.com.
And it's a number 9.
Yep, the Cloud9fabrics.com. That will take you basically to all of our different sites. We're on Instagram. We're on Pinterest. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. Instagram's probably my favorite, just because it's instant. So
instant gratification.
Yeah. So you can find us there. I do recommend going to our website, because we do have a whole project section where we have free projects and lots of great quilt patterns and other little projects here and there. And take a look at our fabrics, because they're really inspiring. And that is actually one of our catchphrases. We work with artists who inspire us so that we may inspire you. And I think that is very true. And I think if you take a little tour and you check out what we do, you'll be really inspired.
That sounds great. And our Cloud9 fabrics, they're available in independent quilt shops nationwide, and also like in other countries as well, and online too.
Yeah, around the world, online. There's a lot of online shops that ship internationally. So if you are in South America somewhere and you want our fabrics and you can't find them, go to some of our online retailers. They ship internationally. But we have distributors around the world, all over Europe, South Korea. So you can really, wherever you are, if you want our fabrics, you can find them.
Yeah. Again, on our website, there's a where to buy section, and it's really informative. We don't update it as often as we would like, but when we do get the first push out of all of our collections, we will list what shops are selling which collections, and by state or by country, or by collection, or even by designer. So there's a lot of good search parameters on that tool.
Yeah, that's really useful for people. So super, that sounds great. And thank you so much. You've been listening to the While She Naps podcast, and I'm Abby Glassenberg. I invite you to visit my blog, whileshenaps.com, where you'll find helpful information for creative entrepreneurs, as well as tutorials and patterns for making stuffed animals and dolls. And if you enjoy the show, tell a friend about it. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.